Hello. Welcome to Cali Cocktail Hour. It is sometime in December. Hello, Carissa. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. I
Good.
hear, yeah, 2020 has been like the longest, shortest 7 years of my life.
Perfect. And we're here for it too. So, lockdown number two, shelter in place number two, and we have a special guest, Andru Defeye, the Sacramento Poet Laureate of Sacramento. Did I say that right? Yeah, I did. Very special guest. Awesome, great guy. Has so many things that he's doing right now. So that I wanted to have him on here so he can explain all the Joy Hunt, his Sacramento Poetry Salon, his show on COVID facts, and all beautiful stuff. So we're happy to hear, and we're happy everyone is here. So, and we also would like you to ask questions about him or with him too when he's here too. So, yeah. So, how you been during this time? How's your week been?
It's been a busy week. I'm fortunate that I get to work from home, so I've been working quite a bit, but it's been nice. It's cold now. It's been raining. I like waking up to the sound of it against my window. My neighborhood's lovely. It's just been, I guess you mentioned it's a second lockdown, so I feel like I'm wiser. I'm more prepared.
Yeah.
We also have a vaccine underway, so it's almost like, all right, there's
we see something coming, right? Yeah, we see something coming. Yeah, especially from last time. So, yeah, and thank you for co-hosting. I know that sometimes I'm like, hey, can you do this week? And you're like, sure.
Yeah, I'm like, sure, why not? What am I doing on a Friday?
That's right, on a Friday night. I was talking to Melissa Pinnell about this when we first started. There was a lot of people. The comments were different. The people were different. There was more like dire needs and people with suicidal thoughts, and which we said, come on, bring us everything. And so this is the second round of this, and we're glad people are in a better headspace too. Back then it was a little bit more scarier too on that one, and so we appreciate everybody for coming here. And hello, Heather, how you doing, my friend Heather? Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I think when you first started streaming these, was it like April? Because we went into lockdown in March.
Yeah.
It was a random night, and I was just like sitting on my stoop and just kind of like breathing in and out. And you're just playing this, and I'm watching this on my phone, and I'm just like crying. And for a moment, it was just like I felt a little less alone, and I was like, I'm glad. I'm like, thank you for doing this. So
and that's what like I said, that's what we are here for too. And we never really advertise it as much, or try to market it, but because we're happy with how intimate it is, and how people come, and they come, they go, and it's a very welcoming spot for everybody. And I'm glad that everybody has been here and rotated in and out, and I appreciate everybody out there for coming out. So
and some of the regulars too. It's always nice.
Yeah.
It's like people I haven't met that I already feel like we're friends now.
Well, that's the thing too, is building that community too, right? It's kind of a different feel and a different kind of community. I always say my virtual life is my real life now, and my real life is a virtual life right now. So yeah, I mean, I've met so many people. I'm like, hey, I'm a human, being. But it's all
like when we finally do meet them in real life.
It's all because it's all vibrations at this point. So
yeah,
and we'll be playing some Tibetan healing sounds in the background. Okay. That way everybody gets their vibration on, and yeah. So before we have Andru on, I want to play this. So I've been doing another show, and it's actually one late at night. And it's actually more for you can either close your eyes and sit back and relax, but it's really something that's it's glitch art, so it's really frenetic visuals, and have characters that are animated too on there. But I want to play that first. It's a really relaxing, and remember, Cali Cocktail Hour Friday nights is Feeling Friday, so bring out your feelings. We don't care what you have. Oh, Chris. Hello, Chris. How you doing? Nice to see you, Chris. Good evening to you too. And remember, Cali Cocktail Hour is the dog park for feelings. So bring your feelings out, your anxieties, your love, your hope, everything else, and let them play together, right? Let them go. Let them sniff each other's butts, like we said. It's fine, right? So that's what we're here for. So we're going to come back, and I'm really excited to have Andru on here. So this is called Espacio Amor, and it's going to be late at night. So if you can't sleep, if you need someone, you need someone to tell you some good words or something like that, and if only for a moment in time, if only for that moment, that hour, and it is some ambient music. I'll have the artist's name too. But so here's a little part of it. All right, and then we'll come back and we'll bring up Andru.
Welcome. It's time for you to relax and let go. You are in space. Your worries are no more. If only for this moment in time. So take a deep breath and release it. It is that time to let your heart dance and feel so good. Espacio Amor en la noche.
And welcome. And we have Andru. How you doing, man? How's it going?
I am fantastic. Another beautiful Friday night. Glad to be here on Feelings Friday. I heard this was the dog park for your feelings, so we
that's right.
Go here.
Nice. Hi. What's your baby girl's name?
This is Tiger Lily, aka the baby monster, because she's a baby and a monster at the same damn time.
So how you been, man? How's it been going for you? I know that you've done some really cool stuff. I saw you last night. Was it last night on the stream?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded really good. So I needed that. I closed my eyes and just listened. So
I had a really good mentor as far as this streaming stuff goes. There's this guy named Ruben in the city, and he's been teaching everybody this StreamYard thing. He's the OG of this StreamYard game.
That's right. 8 months old. Perfect.
So I was doing a little bit of that music to breathe to last night, just kind of testing things out, having some fun on the StreamYard platform. I like to.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's cool. Like I said, like you just pop on something and you see it and you hear it. You're like, I needed to hear that, right? It's like the I Ching. It's like I just popped up and I saw this one time, and I guess this is where I'm supposed to be right now. And I was like, I needed to slow down my brain and thoughts and. I just beautiful. It's a beautiful sound, and we're gonna bring some up. So I reckon, like, what am I talking about? We're gonna bring some up to listen to. So,
word up,
yeah,
excited.
So how's this week going for you?
And it's been a busy, beautiful week for me. Hey,
hey, Serge.
I'm saying,
Serge
it's in here.
The baby got more fans than I do in Sacramento.
I'm sure.
Just to be straight, it's been a beautiful week. I've been able to have some really amazing conversations around the arts in Sacramento. Talking to a lot of people about what we're doing with the Sacramento Poetry Salon, and just kind of building community partnerships and community support from all the corners of the city. We've got like the smaller grassroots open mics to the bigger arts institutions jumping in. So it was a little bit wild, a lot of meetings and a little Zoom fatigue going on. But that's how it is nowadays, I guess.
And Andru, you are the youngest Sacramento Poet Laureate. right?
Yes, sir.
Of Sacramento.
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. How's that going, especially in a time like, right now?
And it's been really interesting. The lockdown presents its own challenges to like getting art out there. Normally there'd be a whole lot of poetry events that I could be at, or different events that I'd be reading at for the city. And right now it's just kind of, I'm kind of doing my own thing. You know what I mean? I'm out doing a lot of work with a bunch of educational institutions and organizations, working on developing some curriculum, um, and this poetry salon. I think it's been a beautiful way to really have the conversations that needed to be had and that I was aiming to have anyways. And I think that this lockdown is kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
If we were having these conversations about equity, then the only people that would be there are the people who were there, right? Like we have this one-time event where we have this panel discussion and it's only the people who were in the room, where I feel like now, since we're going to be streaming them, they'll be recorded. People can jump in later in the conversation whenever they have time. We did an event with the salon last weekend that normally that would have been a 50 to 100 person show probably.
Yeah.
And within 24 hours, we'd reached over 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So, the streaming is kind of a blessing and a curse. We'd love to be able to like hug y'all and love people in the physical, but being able to reach a lot of people and have it be there for a while it's a real blessing, man. So
yeah, and it is. I saw it. It looked. I mean, I want to say the production wise looked great, and you could tell you put your heart into it.
Thank you. I mean, those three poets right there are three of my favorites in the world. Yeah. I have a tattoo right here. You can see that says "Speak Poet," that I got with those three and a couple others after we went to the Democratic National Convention a couple years ago and did guerrilla poetry throughout the convention. I've never been in trenches like that in my career. These are thousands of people walking by you that don't want to hear the message that you're bringing, so it was it was a fight, and to have those people in the trenches with me was really, really beautiful. So by the time it was done, we were all like, "Oh, we getting matching tattoos about this. No one's forgetting. We are bonded for life. We are family." Like it was like when people go to war, So
I'm glad you mentioned that, because you mentioned being at the DNC or working on curriculum. And it's like for a lot of people, even if we dabble in poetry, what is the role of poetry in sort of speaking truth to power or just speaking truth in general? Like how is that look like in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it right there, speaking truth to power. I believe the poets are the ones who lead the revolution and the movement. One of the things that's been the coolest for me as an OG poet who is Uncle Rap to a lot of the young poets in the city. I watched when the uprising started, right? And when you tuned in to the uprising, you saw a lot of these young poets were the ones with the megaphone. They were the ones bringing the passion of the crowd up. They were the ones, it's a poet's job to distill this big complex world and these big complicated issues and distill it down into a shot-sized glass that people can just take, and to lift the spirits of the people and to bring the joy as well, like to walk people through to the other side. There's a lot of heaviness. And, me and Dre T talked one time and he said something to me that I'll never forget, where he said, it doesn't matter how much weight you put on the crowd's shoulders when you're performing, but don't leave it there. Right. So like make people feel. That's what poetry is about, is making people feel, but don't leave that weight on them. Right. Like, and it's funny, one of the best activation that we did at the DNC didn't even have to do with poetry. Right. So we did one day where we did like 8 or 9 performances. Everyone was just exhausted. That's spiritually exhausting, to bring up like this much energy and then have people walking past you that aren't even paying attention to what you're doing. And so the next day I got up, I was doing some self-care for myself, sitting in the bath, and was like, yo, I don't want to put my team through that again. right? So instead of, especially not 8 a.m., 9 a.m. is too early to be yelling poetry at people. They're not ready for it. We're not ready to be yelling like. So we did this. ZFG has this other activation called the Compliment Corridor. And the way this normally works is we stand as a group in the middle of the sidewalk and we block the sidewalk. So people are walking up and they're like, oh, this gang of hooligans is just blocking the sidewalk. They're making it hard for me to, I'm gonna have to walk around. And then as they approach, we part the ways and we form an aisle and we usher them through the aisle and everyone compliments something about that person. Yo, I love your shoes. Yo, the hat's looking fly today. Yo, your hair game is killing it. And we did this at the DNC in the morning. By the time it was that night, I was asking one of the security guards for something for one of the team, and I heard the other security guard going, ma'am, I really like your hat. Sir, I really like that scarf. And you watched literally the energy that ran through that whole space that night, and throughout that day. So, that's really what it's about. Sometimes poetry isn't spitting rhymes, sometimes it's really, these little things. We showed a whole group of folks how to, we had people that came in and were like, but I don't know these people. How do I compliment them? All right, cool. Stand next to me. I'm gonna show you right now how to compliment strangers. So
yeah.
You talk about the uprising, and it's like, well, it seems like certain people can hate people without knowing them. So certainly we can love them without knowing them too.
And we got Chris out there. Chris Macias says, shout out to Andru, most definitely one of Sacramento's greatest artistic forces. Yeah.
Man, that's big words coming from that man.
Yeah, Chris is awesome. He was on here the other couple weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, maybe? Yeah, he was awesome. Like Chris, I love Chris. So, and then Raul, all the way from Oaxaca, but from Stockton too. And then Serge, you want to read that, Carissa?
Yeah. Oh, you're quoting TS. Okay. It is a test that genuine poetry can communicate before it is understood. So,
feel it, make them feel it.
I mean, T.S. Eliot was really full of himself, but he said some very beautiful things too. So I can respect that. But no, I hear you. I think it's, but the ability to, you feel it. And it's like, and you mentioned your exercise that you did, the complimenting, how it kind of ripples throughout. And I think that's very real. You tap into this kind of like, Ruben, maybe I'm using the wrong terminology, but you talk a lot more about sort of this cosmic force or this sort of connection that we have to all living things. And I think poetry just transcends our reality a little bit.
Yeah. And and like I said, what you did too, especially in such a DNC, like, it's just that kind of convention, like, like you said, people are just walking past you and probably just not thinking about stuff and for you to do that too, and people to react afterwards. Right. And it becomes contagious.
Well, and it's wild. So that whole activation, the whole idea for that activation happened because 1 week, everybody in ZFG just had a hard ass week. Yeah. And we were talking amongst each other like, yo, it's been so rough. Like, I'm not doing good right now. And we understand that if you want love, you have to give away love. And that's the way that this energy works. So we took it down to, I think it was like 20th and J, that little block where Lowbrow's at. And that's where we did it the first time. And so we're just standing there, and the very first person who ever walked through, she was an older lady, and we hit her with the compliments. She started crying immediately and was like, that was the sweetest thing. I needed that so much. I had such a hard week. And then it becomes this big old group hug. And it's like, oh, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. Like it really there was a real divine keep going. That was a good idea, guys. Keep going with that. So yeah.
Well, apparently Mia in the background loved it too. She was giving you some bark outs.
Some poetry too. She knows what's up.
Yeah, instead of snapping, she's barking. So
it is.
Feelings. And this is the dog park for feelings.
That's right. Yeah. She's like, what about me? Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, like I said, what was the name of the poets on the Poetry Salon?
That was Grace Loescher, and and Jeanette Sim.
Yeah,
so J-Ro, Grace, and yes.
Okay, yeah, and you're doing something on Monday, right? A holiday.
Oh boy, am I doing something on Monday? This is going to be. I've done, like I said, I've done a handful of performances this year. Didn't really, it's a weird thing because it brings up a lot of anxiety for me. I live alone, and there's this like adrenaline that rises before you do a performance, right? But for me, my adrenaline gets up here, and then I'm done with the performance and it slams me down because I'm not hanging out with anyone. Like usually there's like a whole bunch of people and we're hanging out. We might go get something to eat, have a drink, whatever it is, right? But for me, I'm just slammed back to the reality of like, oh, I'm at home alone again. So I haven't performed a lot. So this one is like my big event for the year. It's called the Lockdown Laureate Holidays Special. And we have got an incredible lineup ready for folks that are, it's like Scrooge in a way. We've got the Laureate present. We've got Laureate's past. We've got Laureate's future. They're all going to probably teach me a lesson,
Yeah.
I'll wake up the next day cheerful and joyful and in the mood, like for Christmas. So, yeah, man, it should be.
So,
should be amazing.
yeah, let's play what you, what do you want to call it? Not a
Little
commercial?
promo.
Little promo, yes.
Yeah.
And then let's get you to read something then, because, like I said, the city is missing you. The city is missing your voice out there, but I know that you are going to come back with a vengeance and, teaching everybody, bringing everybody, live streaming everybody. At least you're doing that too, right? And that, I think that, like I said, there will be live streaming is, it'll be 50 people watching or whatever the case, but then the repeat on there is pretty incredible. And, and I think live streaming people are waiting for us to mess up. So,
well, I'm going to do all new stuff tonight too. These
Awesome.
are poems that have not been read publicly. So I'm excited to debut some stuff tonight.
All right. Well, let's play the promo and then we'll be right back with one. What's it called? Going to be called?
This is called Walt Whitman Diss Poem.
Okay. So let's go.
Okay.
Let me get my wine for that too. I'm ready. And you know what I love about, I know it's about live streaming. When I'm watching them live, it's like you really feel it though. You can really feel it and you have it up close. It's almost like you're sitting up front. You're not in the back. That's me. I'm like a wallflower. I'll always be in the back. I'm like, I wish I was up front, but now you're up front. You can see their facial expressions. You can see the cadence in their voices, the feelings, everything else. That's what I love about it. Cause I'm like, oh, cool. Like, it's something that I can generally watch and listen to to the different tones and all that stuff too. So, yeah.
No, I hear you on that, Ruben. Like, I think, especially with different social media platforms, some of these artists or musicians are taking to like Instagram Live or Facebook Live. And all of a sudden you're in that like a very intimate space with that artist. And they're just, raw performing. And you're like, this is a very, like, is this going to carry on in the next few years? Are we going to be seeing more of this? Is this a trend, or is this just kind of getting us through this time? But I really appreciated that experience. And maybe I'm just in my room in my pajamas eating Cheetos and watching like a really great artist perform, but no one needs to know that. Like, the feelings are still real.
Shout out to the introverts who like don't actually like going to shows and can still get the shows like into their living rooms. Like, I'm saying, I've watched some amazing shows in my pajamas. Like, it's real.
And I think people are getting very innovative with that too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are we ready?
Yeah, let me. So I'll preface this in. So the uprising was going on. Amidst all of that, they started tearing down statues and things. One of the statues that was tried to be torn down was a statue of Walt Whitman in his hometown, and some people didn't like that. I personally think we hold some of these old white poets up as a standard, and I don't think that's right. I don't think it's really representative. And I think there are better poets to hold up as a standard. So this is my Walt Whitman diss poem. I never liked Whitman or any poets who use the word henceforth in their poetry. For that matter, they didn't when we were writing to keep our suicide attempts at bay. Old Walt was a racist. No matter how queer he was, they say, I want to burn down libraries and national parks. We are just asking for new statues that resemble everyone, not just old white men who say henceforth in their poetry about nature, but refuse to dissect their own. If my poems are problematic in 200 years, topple my statues, burn down any schools bearing my name, replace them with eponyms of those who destroyed my legacy, I will laugh and cheer the kids on while old poets defend me, explaining it was a different time, and teachers hide this poem because it says I loved cocaine and unprotected sex with strangers in my 20s. Honor me with sledgehammers and broken glass, not damned institutions with professors who only know what they are taught. Fragile with anthologies of ego no one will ever read. Monuments to the fact those who can't do teach. May they rust on the bottoms of young rivers until they become the kind of silt that Walt Whitman would have written about henceforth.
Nice. We need the crowd. That crowd goes wild.
And the crowd goes.
And it
I
does.
loved Honor Me with Hammers and Broken Glass. I was like, ooh, that was beautiful. And now I will never use the word henceforth ever. Thank you for sharing.
Damn it.
It was wild. So the first time I read that privately, right, there was a group of California laureates that had a meetup and were reading poems. And I had this other poem and then I had this one. And I was like doing this dance of like, which one of these am I getting? I can't do this Whitman poem. I cannot do this Whitman poem. This is a group of like academics. Like these are OG laureates. Like I can't just run up in here as the young one in the group and be like, fuck Walt Whitman. And then I realized like, that's not the advice that I give to my kids. You know what I mean? Like with my kids, I tell them like, if you have two choices and one of them scares you, do that one. Like you will always feel better at the end of it afterwards doing that one, regardless of how scary it is. So I did it there. And I mean, I think for the most part, it went off well. Like the person who organized the event was like, I like that poem. Some of the older folks were like,
Hey, you got some claps too. Some virtual
hey.
claps.
Awesome snaps.
Yeah, from Minnie.
That's
Yes.
That's the love.
Welcome. And welcome, Teresa. Yeah, that was great. I really did. That was awesome.
And Andrew, I grew up in Sac. I left for like 10 years and then I came back. But I remember being told, reading Walt Whitman and reading like T.S. Eliot and all these greats, and then going off in my own journey and then finding out about like Roque Dalton in Latin America and Eduardo Galeano. And you're just like, these men are problematic as hell too. But there was all this different poetry that uses its voice, not just to further the institution, but like question class, question all these like different social injustices. And it just completely changed the game for me, because it was like poetry is always seen as like romantic, but what is more loving than really representing the dignity of people?
Right.
So
right,
listening to you, I was like, yes, like go. But yeah, I felt that love. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's white supremacy is everywhere. You know what I mean? So really trying to like figure out how we break that down, and in the literary arts in America, like there again, like Walt Whitman he's a boring ass poet, to be just honest about it. Like same with T.S. Eliot. I'm not stirred by that, right? Like I know there's a bunch of people who are like writing me off as like poet laureate right now. They're like,
you know what? You told me to be an asshole, right? Remember? Well, good. I'm writing you off right now.
Yeah.
I'm writing you off right now. This is it. This is me being an ass right now.
I'm waiting. Do it. Give it to us.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. That's what you got. Yeah, an asshole with a smile.
Yeah, it's smashing that wherever it rears its ugly head. You know what I mean? And I think in the academic world, we hold a lot of like a lot of white folks up that, you know, are mediocre. So, you know, it's time that we stop doing that. You know, I know poets that I'd rather read. Like I can name you 10 poets in this city that I'd rather read than sit down and waste an afternoon reading Whitman. So
yeah, you know what?
How y'all feel about it?
Yeah. Type in the comments. Yeah. The controversy, the gotcha question. Here is the gotcha question for you. Now, I know that you do a show every Monday night. I think you have maybe 3 more shows, and you do for the can you explain a little more before I fuck it up?
Yes, it's all the Rona news and shenanigans. So we do the numbers, the news, and then we do an interview with so far it's been artists and health professionals. Last week we did an amazing interview with the Santawa and Amanda Vasquez. So it was our nurse appreciation show. So we just talked to the nurses about what's going on with the COVID. So yeah, it's just really trying to bring people that edutainment where it's like education, entertainment. I got a co-host on that show, little blue guy who's taking over the airwaves in Sacramento. His name is Zeus T. Fitzgerald. The T stands for the, and
he does take over.
Yeah, no, he absolutely takes over. That's my roommate. He's currently in New Zealand right now because he was not trying to fuck with y'all because you don't know how to wear your mask and stay socially distant from each other. So
yeah, which you know gets us to the point where we're at again in another lockdown or shelter in place again. You know, and I know that we talk about this how people, you know, the ones that complain the most about it and the ones complain about, you know, shutting everything down are the people that don't wear the masks and are the people, the ones that are probably responsible for most of the shit, you know, like wear a seatbelt, right? Wear a mask. It's not that hard. So.
Well, I think there's something even deeper to it. Like, you know, the not being able to sit with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Like this part of like, it's like spiritual work.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I can tell you just as someone, I've been sitting at home by myself with my dog and that puppet for 9 months now. And I am in so much better spiritual condition than I've ever been in because I was forced to, like, you got to sit with your shadow at that point, you know?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of folks who run away from that work. That's why as soon as the bars open, people are out at those bars. I gotta be around other people. I gotta be drinking. I gotta party. I gotta like take my mind out. Like, nah, y'all need to sit still and do your work. You know what I mean? And like do that spirit work. I feel like in a way, the whole universe like was like, yo, y'all need to sit down. Speaking of sit down,
see,
y'all need to sit down and like do that work, you know what I mean? Like connect with the divinity inside of you, whatever you call that. So.
And it is true that time has slowed down, right? And maybe this is the time for us to really, you know, contemplate the future. And you know, the Earth is healing herself right now, little by little, right? And so maybe we should heal ourselves along the way too, and realize that, you know, capital, you know, we can go into all that stuff too, but it really is a good time to, you know, sit back and try to live with yourself. I mean, this week I allowed myself to be sad, right? And I allowed myself to be, you know, like missing things. And, you know, I'm reading about emotional languages and, you know, sadness is a good thing for, you know, so you can kind of move on, right? And it's okay to be sad. And I'm like, okay, I'll be sad, and you know, and not like a depressing. I mean, even if it was depressing, that'd be fine. But it's more like just letting go of stuff. Hey, I remember, you know, we used to do this. That may not happen again, right? But it was a beautiful time, And I do believe there's a beautiful time coming again. When summertime comes, we're like, yes, it's fucking hot. It's 105. Yes, I love it. But right now it is a time where we slow down right now too, and which is curious. I mean, because I've been taking pictures of leaves for a long time, right? But only is it now that people are really going, hey, I really like those, those leaves, and I'm like, well, it's always been, something with me about returning back to nature, returning back to the mother. Right. But as people I think are slowed down now, and it's like, oh, I see, and you see them everywhere because you're walking outside, right? That's what you got to do nowadays, just not to, but it's interesting what you say that too, because we don't have that much distractions. And that's why I think a lot of people were depressed in the very beginning, because they had no idea what to do. We're so used to having, things going.
Yeah, so. I think there's something about things going or going to the bars or something where we saw the periods where we were with ourselves as that space between, like, when one song on a disc ends and then we're waiting for the next one to start. And that period where we're waiting, where there's still that scratching noise on the vinyl, that was us alone. But then that, like, kept going. Like, we didn't know, like, when is the next time that the next track is going to play? And we realized, like, that's space for us to create our own music. And I think it's just been a really, for some of us, the first month was hard, because you're like, hello, person that I've been living with my whole life that I've been ignoring, like, what are you doing? And then for some of us, it's been like finding your best friend. And as you mentioned, Ruben, like, being sad, like, what does that mean? Like, and I thank you for describing what that has been for you. And for some of us, like, I don't feel happy. That's okay.
Yeah.
Like, for once, it's like, I don't have to, like, escape from it. Just like, I think I'm just going to sit in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Andru and I talked about this, what's going on too. Like, I've known 3 people, well, 1 for sure, 2 people who, taken their lives during this time, and I was like, I just didn't know, I mean, obviously you go through these feelings, right? I said I could have helped them, but you really couldn't have helped them, right? And, but like you said, it's one of those times where it's just, some people, this was it, it was scary. It was really scary in the beginning, and it really took its toll on mental health on everybody, and it's still going on because it's been 8 months, and but I think people are, finally seeing that, it's hard when you have to empty your thoughts of everything.
Right? I mean, it is hard. And yet, because how delicate you can be, I had to make some very real decisions that were painful about, like, I mean, there's so much loss in general, whether it's real, like, people, you're losing people to COVID, to, illness, to loneliness, or you're losing people just as a natural way of things, or pets, or feelings, or jobs, whatever it may be. There's just a lot of loss. But the ability to also remove things and be like, I can't have these people in my life because I really need me right now, has been also a very transformative experience of being like, I can love people at a distance too. Like, they don't need to be involved in my day to day. And that's also been a big experience or exercise. It's like, who are these people that I love that are like, if I hold on to you, I'm hurting myself. And so it's been, I think it's been a very beautiful experience. The year has been hard, and I'm not minimizing anyone's pain, because it's been hard.
Yeah.
But how do you hold joy and grief at the same time? And I think that's like what 2020 has been all about. It's like,
I've been writing a lot about that. I went through some personal loss recently, and, I do this thing called the Great Joy Hunt. And so figuring out how to, just realizing how big we are as humans, that, like, I could hold space for grief and joy at the same time. How amazing that is, that, like, I'm brokenhearted about this loss, but at the same time I'm able to, like, make some music, or hear from one of the youngsters that I work with, or really just, like, wake up in the morning and be like, dang, my heart beat all night without me telling it to. That's crazy. Like, and be able to, like, find that joy and really balance, the joy and the grief, and how big we are as humans. Like, that's beautiful that I think a lot of people are seeing that, what I mean? And really seeing, like, how big we are, that we can hold all of this at the same time.
I'm seeing a lot of people starting to, who dabbled in art or, whatever you call it, start creating things, right? And they're like, I'm like, that's amazing to me. I'm like, because you didn't have the time to do that, right? And now they're like, I like doing this, and and they're really cool, coming up with some really cool stuff, and essential, right? The word, everybody's starting to realize how much art, poetry, music, all this stuff is essential, because we really need it, and this is the time where artists will shine too, because that's what we do. But I think everybody is starting to learn that they're also two artists, or they're writers, or they I've always seemed like, well, I started to do this, I'm like, just fucking do it, you know what I mean? Like, just it's the time right now. So Teresa said, me too, I found things great, make me happy. This is going to go back to the leaves. Thank you, John. The colors, yes. Yeah, the colors are, yeah, thank you. I was happy then Andrew crushed me. LOL.
Oh, no.
Probably a T.S. Eliot fan or a Walt Whitman fan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Teresa. I love you.
Yeah. So John said, Chris, I know what you mean. My cat's looking at me, asking me why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. My dog looks at me and he's pretty happy. She's pretty happy.
Yeah.
Super happy.
So,
yeah.
And that was Serge. Yeah. He had a pun back there.
Let's break it down.
Yeah.
If he wants to pun with me, let's do it.
So yeah, Serge is an awesome guy too. He was on the show too. He's currently in living in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, so let me ask a question too before we go back. The Great Joy Hunt, I love that, and I wanted to talk to you about that, because I think it's something that people really need to see too. It's like these little things in life, right? Yeah, we explained a little more about the Great Joy Hunt.
Man, love and gratitude are the two most powerful energies, and really knowing that in my life. So my dad's a minister. And one thing my pops always explained to me was that happiness and joy are very different things. Yeah. Happiness is a very conditional thing, where joy is an inside job. And I went through some really rough times a couple years ago, and it got to the point where I was like, yo, I have to actively find things to be joyful about, and figure out this process of how you always tell people, like, you don't have to go from a 1 to a 10, you just have to go from a 1 to a 2. So how do I get myself, when I wake up at a 1, how do I get myself to a 2? How do I get myself from a 2 to a 3? How do I make these jumps in my own vibration, right? Like, so, starting general. And a lot of the times it literally starts with like, man, this bed is super comfortable. I'm super glad I got this bed. Yo, my pillow was killing. And literally, like, for me, I grew up with wild health issues. So for me, it's literally that thing of like, yo, my heart kept beating all night by itself, and I didn't have to tell it to you. Like, I'm driving this wild machine that's like so effective and so big and so powerful and so miraculous. And the more that you focus on that, the less that you'll be affected by these other things, by these conditions, right? Because if your joy is up, then your happiness can be wavering, right? But if your joy is at a solid level, and you find that foundation of joy, then there's not a lot that can really take that from you. And so I just started kind of posting that with the hashtag The Great Joy Hunt a couple of years ago, and then people have like caught on to it, and I'll see the Great Joy Hunt hashtags all over my timeline, and folks just realizing that like this love and this gratitude are really where it's at. Like, especially, it's that thing I said about like when you running out of love, when you feel like you don't have enough love, like you have to give away what you do have, and that's how you build yourself back up and feel it and fill it. So yeah, that's what the Great Joy Hunt is about, is just really like that vibration lift. And because it's not everywhere. And what's wild is doing this couple of years before 2020, and then 2020 hit, and I was like, oh, this is what I've been training for. Like, because there were days, again, I've been here solo, so it's me and me all day, every day. And you got to understand, in my house, the ZFG headquarters, there were people here every night making music, making art. Like, I'm a very social person. So I miss my crew more than a lot of things in life. And there were really hard, really depressing days where it was like, come on, you know how to do this. You know how to do this. Like, what are you thankful for in this moment?
We just lost Ruben, by the way.
That's fine. Who needs Ruben?
We're not even streaming right now, but I'm like, okay. I know. I was like, I just went to the Facebook page just to make sure, and I'm like, we're not even streaming. All right, we're just vibing now. Like
That's weird. It says live. Y'all, are we streaming? We may be.
Solid level. Find that foundation.
I don't know. I'm about to like text one of the viewers.
Yeah. Who's watching? Tell us we're streaming.
Oh no, we're still on.
Yeah.
Well, all right. We'll wait for Ruben to come back, but he says keep going. All right, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Life. All right. So Andrew, yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's been a process. I think like life is poetry. But no, it's been a beautiful thing. And I think seeing what you've been doing, I mean, poets have a way of keeping their experiences so raw and really being in tune. I don't know what the practice is to be a good poet, but as you were describing your day, being so mindful, so present in your life. I woke up, my bed is comfortable. I woke up like I'm in this car. I mean, there's something about just the ability to be so present in your life that is poetic. It's like when you're just showing up and functioning and going home, you're missing it.
I had a kid recently, actually a parent hit me up because their kid was doing their first poetry performance in their class and wanted some tips on how do I do this. And my biggest tip and my biggest advice was just feel it. Mm-hmm. Pick a piece that you feel and then feel the hell out of it until you can't feel it anymore. Then feel it a little bit more than that. And it really is just about feeling things. And it's funny because you're like, I don't know what the process is to get to be a good poet. It's being a bad poet for a really long time. Like it's just like, and it, like I tell people all the time, I'm a professional failure. I'm not a professional failure. That's a big difference. I'm a professional failure. I've failed at so many things in my life that now I'm like pretty decent at a few of them, you know? So I think that's definitely like a part of the process. Where is your joy at these days? That's what I want to know.
Where's my joy at? It's like when I make my coffee in the morning, like I French press it, like I don't miss that step. Like I don't care how crazy the day is or how late I'm going to be logging in. It's like, I'm going to make my coffee. And every step of that, it's like a ritual. And I got to sit with it. I have to like look out the window or sit outside for a bit with my dog. And that is just something that I do for me. Like the world can just wait 5 freaking minutes. But that has to happen.
Self-care is a revolutionary act, and it's in all of those little things. You know, being able to like take that time for yourself, so crucial. It's so crucial, and it's a time for it. You know, I practice meditation. I do meditation and juice in the morning.
Meditation and juice.
If I miss one of those steps, like it's so noticeable for me throughout the rest of the day, where like I can be super annoyed. My energy can fluctuate really quick based on what someone says to me or what someone else does. But if I get my meditation and my juice in, like I'm unstoppable for the day. Like,
yeah, I hear you.
Ruben, you're back.
Or is he? Frozen.
Oh, he just put up a picture of himself.
That's what he's doing. He's through the evening. Yeah, no, I think there's something to that about finding your joy. But there was something you said right before, and I apologize with like Ruben coming in. But I appreciate you. I love you use the term failure, not failure. You're almost stubborn in your resolve. Like, I'm gonna keep doing this because it feels right. And you mentioned a little bit that your dad was a pastor or is a pastor. And for some of us who maybe are familiar with some of your poetry, but not like what makes you, which I think is so critical to understanding your poetry and where you're coming from. Where did this love for words come from? I mean, I can sort of tell, but it's like, how did you cultivate that? What made you decide like poetry or die?
And so number one, Pops was a minister. So I grew up watching my dad like speak to people and passionately convey a message of love. So that's definitely like a core part of it. And then, like I said, I have a I was born without stomach muscles, right? So my entire childhood was spent in hospitals, and I was told at 16 years old that I was supposed to die at 15, right? Like I had all of these like wild experiences. I wasn't even supposed to be here, much less live this long, tour around the world, dance on. They said I wouldn't walk. I've danced on stages around the world, right? Like, but when I was a teenager, I was just angry, right? I felt like I got the short end of the stick. I had all of this aggression and all of this trauma, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I wrote, and I just wrote in this book. I tell kids whenever I work with them, it's funny because I used to get in trouble for writing in this book and for interrupting class. Those were the only two things that I did my entire high school career. I ended up in a continuation school and barely graduated because of that. And now I get paid to write poems and interrupt places. The guerrilla art movement was built on that. So I'm 17 years old. I'm at the continuation school. I'm doing the same thing where I just write in my book all day. I'm in a newspaper class, which you would think like I was like, oh, he would love that. Like, nah, I was still not interested and still just writing in my book. And I had one teacher, his name's Virgil Doogie, and he changed my entire life. And he said, Mr. Andru, what are you writing in that book? And I said, there's no way in hell I'm showing you what I'm writing in this book. This is my unabridged diary. And he was like, I'm not going to get you in trouble. I just want to see what you're writing, and I'll give you credit. And so I let him take my book. He took my book, and when he came back the next day, there was a bunch of his poetry shoved into my book. And it was poems about like super personal poems about like his divorce that he was going through and how he was feeling about, like things he should not have been sharing with a student by their standards, right?
Right.
But at 17 years old, being like, I was a full-grown adult. I've been dealing with mortality since I was 6, like since I could cognitively figure out like that's what they were talking about. So, when it comes back with his poems in it, he said, this is what you're doing is called poetry. Yeah. And he gives me my first book of poems, which is the Outlaw Bible of American Poetry, which is this little guy right here. Everyone go pick up a copy of that.
I love it.
And that changed everything for me, because it was the folks who were banned out of they weren't covered in traditional literary classes, right? These are everybody from the Beats to Tupac Shakur was in this book. So that changed everything for me. And from that point on, like, I get into hip hop eventually. I start making music and doing that. And then like traveled around and toured doing that, but poetry's always been at the core of what I was doing. So that's like the root stories of how poetry like takes over my life and never lets me go. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's how we get here. That's the origin story. And then I met a bunch of weirdos when I got to Sacramento, and we just started yelling and rapping on street corners, and the rest is mad history.
Thank you for being here, for sharing that, for sharing your life, to allowing Sacramento to be a part of your life too. Sacramento's evolved a lot. You've been here for a while, so you've probably seen it go through a huge change from the moment you arrived to where we are in 2020.
I love Sacramento. I tell people all the time, like I was in the Valley and then I was in the Bay. And then I came here, and I feel like, how when Goldilocks was like, this porridge is too hot, this porridge is too cold, this porridge is just right. Like, that's how I feel about Sacramento. Like, Sacramento was just right. Like, there was enough culture going on here that you could like find some really cool events. You could like soak up some art, but also you could create your own lane.
Yeah.
Had we been doing, what we were trying to do beforehand. Ruben, are you back?
I think I'm back.
I don't want to jinx it. Just like,
I know. Well, it kept going, which is awesome. I'm like watching on my phone, which is cool. I guess it works that way. So
Yeah, we're like, okay, like we'll just keep talking. I still have questions. I still want to get to know you and like, talk more about poetry. It's not every day, unfortunately, that I get to talk about something this beautiful. And especially with someone who continues to do it.
So it might happen. So just keep talking. We'll keep it going.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe Andrew wanted to perform another poem.
Yeah, doing it. Yeah, that'd be great. I'm here for that. Yeah.
Okay. So this one is called My Slam Poem. If you don't know what slam poetry is competitive poetry. It's where we go as hard as we possibly can for some scores. And when I started, it's always been a game of how many heartstrings you could pull. If you could pull the heartstrings hard enough, then you get a 10. And as good as I was at that, it's not always healthy, right? A lot of times we're doing, I talk about like dragging your skeletons out of the closet and making them dance for a crowd and for judges and for a score. And there's a lot of trauma that we bring up in doing this art form, and then not a lot of actual healing that comes around it. And I think our generation really felt those effects. And I think it's important that we as the older folks, kind of create a lane and some awareness around that with these young people to be like, yo, you don't need to necessarily like drag all of your trauma out for these people if they ain't paying for your therapy, basically. You know what I mean? So this one is called My Slam Poem. Insert concise metaphor for my trauma here. Don't make it too obvious at this point, as we'll be unfolding into the realization for the audience later that I wasn't really talking about how long camels can go without water while wandering deserts. It was actually a metaphor for how dry my IG DMs are lately. Now, flour it with vivid language and knead it like a loaf of sourdough until there isn't a dry eye in the room, reliving your trauma for a cash prize that won't cover some real therapy when those perfect 10s come back to haunt you. There are far better reasons to bleed than a score, kids. We worked without safety nets, knowing how dangerous it was, but we were supposed to be securing them lest we forget why we stepped on this high wire in the first place. My favorite poets have perfect balance, leaning between chaos and order, sure-footed enough to make a crowd believe they just might fall, and that's the perfect beauty, because when poets fall, they fall hard. It's in our nature. No one looks down. The circus floor is blood-stained under those 3-ring rugs. Now, for the ending. Distill the lessons that you learned from all of that trauma into a bite-sized morsel of oversimplified moral to the story and tie it into the metaphor while looking the judges in their souls and begging them to understand the sacred dance you just performed despite all of the in the background. And then get ready to tear the tent down and get to the next city. And the crowd goes home. They go home. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate you. Oh. Am I alone here? Am I alone here? I'm solo right now. See, I think we can hear you, but we can't see you. It's just me right now. Ruben got removed. Carissa is here in audio, but not in the physical form. So let's see. Let's see if I got another one for you guys.
Wait. Yeah, you can't see me, can you?
No, we can't see you.
I am God. I'll just like...
Yeah, you're the voice of God right now.
I'm the voice of God.
Ah.
How have you lived your life this year in alignment with your values, Andrew?
Man, a lot of meditation, a lot of sitting still, a lot of spiritual practices developing. There we go. There you are.
All right.
And there he is.
Hey,
just
Ruben.
So it looks like it's gonna be that kind of night. So we'll just go with it, right?
Yeah. We're ready for it.
Yeah. And then we have some people want to say hi to you too. Cha-Cha Burnett.
Cha-Cha Bernadette.
And,
The
and
darling
Bernadette,
Clementines.
yes. And Vidal. ¿Cómo estás, Vidal?
Hola, Vidal. Pull them.
Nice. Hey, Liv, how you doing? How's
Oh.
everybody? Yeah.
Hi, Liv.
We're all here with you, Leslie. Yeah, so it's going to be an improv show.
Hey,
And we know how it works. So even though I go out, you guys are still on, which is perfect.
Yeah, good to know.
So yeah, there's something in the universe tonight. So
The
and
moon
we
is
had
now in Aquarius, apparently,
Yeah.
whatever that means. But
and we have a beautiful. Hi, how you doing? So
you're beautiful.
we are back here. Welcome to Cali Cocktail Hour. We don't know what's going to happen. Andrew, thank you for coming out and that was I heard most of it. So I was trying to work from behind over here. But yeah, and I saw that Carissa was on The Voice only.
I became the voice of God for just a moment.
Yeah, come on, the voice of God out here.
Yeah.
But I
And-
love as you were reciting your poem, or as you were, sharing that with us, there was that part where you were like creating this visual of us being at a circus almost. And you're like, when poets fall, they fall hard. And I think you said the rug is stained red with like the blood of poet. And I'm feeling this. And it's like, I feel very challenged by the idea of calling myself a poet, but it's like you feel a little bit connected to something else. You're like, I know that feeling. And it's like, and I wonder who else out there also feels like, or they're told they feel too much. You're either like, you feel too much or not enough. But when people just speak their truths the way you're doing right now, it's like, we're all out here, like feeling our stuff and, getting through. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you and the way you feel. It's only like, maybe it's just needs a channel. Like, where are you putting it?
Emotions are the human superpower.
I'll have to remember that.
Like really like being able to feel things and conjure these emotions up. Like, whether it makes you a superhero or makes you a supervillain, depending on what you're feeling at the moment, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I definitely, I co-sign feeling as much as you can possibly feel, y'all.
Nice. Uh-oh. Apparently everything's going off at the same time.
It's okay, we're here.
Which would probably with the cyber attacks been going on, so that's maybe they're
That's
this
Were
is
you
one
hacked,
of them.
Ruben?
I
Were you
blame
hacked?
Russia.
Yes, someone's cyber attacking us right now. So
They
but
definitely
perfect.
want to get in on this Cali Cocktail Hour right now.
Yeah, too many feelings going on.
That's it. They're trying to stop the superpowers, bro.
That's right. The
All
feelings
right,
are
we just
yeah.
used the buzzword.
And we'd like to thank everybody for coming out to Cali Cocktail Hour. Usually we don't have these issues, but last couple of days it's been kind of worrying. I have to do a live stream play on Sunday. So we'll see how that goes. At least we know how it works. So, but anyways, yeah, thank you for coming out, and thank you, Andrew, for coming out here. And Monday is the show again. And what time and how do we see it?
Lockdown Laureate Holidays Special, 8:08 p.m. on Monday night.
And I am going to play that one more time because some people haven't been here. So, and this is from the. Oh, hold on, let me get that right so people can see it first. And this is it right here, right?
Yeah. Find us on the Sacramento Poetry Salon. If you are not following the page, go follow it now. We got some amazing poetry events that we've done and some more that we are doing coming up.
And here we go. All right. And we're back. And come watch it on Monday night at 8:08. It's going to be a great show. Am I correct on that?
Yep. 8:08 p.m. December 21st on the
All
Sacramento Poetry Salon page.
And since I was gone, Chris wrote something. I don't know what it means. If there you go.
Oh, City of Porridge, Sacramento City of Porridge.
Okay.
Andrew was talking about coming to Sacramento or going to different cities and places and being like Goldilocks, like this is too hot and this is too cold. But Sacramento was just right.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, perfect. And Christian said this was fun.
City of Porridge is actually my new rap single as well. Featuring Chris is on the hook. You know what I mean? It's going to be lit.
It's going to be just right, though.
Chris is also a great writer, too. And yeah, there's a lot of cool people on here tonight. So I appreciate everything. And, you know, they're a little glitch here and there, but that's what life is, right? Glitch and move on and try to salvage what you can. So, I mean, I wouldn't have known it. I mean, it's probably better that I was out. I was very pissed off at that point, too.
Oh. Yeah. Well, we're working on your like actually moving up on that jerko-meter. So maybe
I left.
That growth.
Yeah, we're trying to make Ruben as much of a jerk as we can tonight.
Yes, and it's working. I'm on.
City of
the water tower.
Yeah.
Not food to face, capital of the world. I thought it was food to face, but I mean, I miss City of Trees, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. That's another controversy.
It is.
Yeah, and we talked about mental health too, and how everybody's doing at this time too, and we wish everybody, some good energy and out there. And if you ever need to talk, we're here for you. That's why you're for every Friday, and you can put down any question you want. We don't, we will answer, or we will try to listen to you and see what you're doing out there. So, and Andrew, thank you for coming out too.
Yeah. Now y'all can always find me on Facebook. My DMs stay open, especially on some mental health shit. Like, if you're just having a hard day, like I'm here to joy hunt with everyone. Like we do that a lot when just as a crew, for our own folks, when we going through it. So, y'all are all family. We're all part of the human family. So anytime that you need, tap into my my DMs and let's go joy hunting. And just know that you're not alone in this time. Like you definitely got some people who care about you. And I'll tell you right now, I'm one of them.
Yeah. See, and thanks for giving me excuses for cocktail hour. Yes, tonight I'm drinking a little bit of blood or sangre, right?
The blood of Christ.
Well, it's time, right? Something.
Here his birthday's coming up.
Here's you live out there. Yeah, here's everybody out there too. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I really appreciate you too for especially rolling with the punches. Everybody's like, I'm all texting. I'm like, I think I'm here, but I'm not. So that's good.
No, yeah. I mean, this is fun. It's just like it's a beautiful space that you convened, Ruben, and just to be able to come here and connect with people and to bring someone like Andrew on, who's like keeping it real, just staying very humble and still like really representing our city in a very beautiful way as it continues to transform. And for me, it just gets to like be a part of it sometimes. Like it's kind of cool. So I appreciate it. And yeah, I really like improvising. So I was like, oh, make it weird. I mean, I think if 2020 did anything for me, it's like when the going goes weird, the weird goes pro. Like we're just like, all right.
Well, I like it. Yeah, and so I've been frustrated here with my internet, but that's good. Let's see. Lots of joy.
This weekly show has brought a lot of joy. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's
love,
awesome.
Love.
Yeah,
I agree.
So let me get to one thing real quick, but why don't you maybe converse for a little bit and cover me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. How's it going?
So how are you? Yeah.
I know. I should bring out like flashcards next time. It's like how describe perfect joy and describe horrible misery.
Oh man. I think again, being able to find it, you know what I mean? Like it's always the sunshine for me. A few great days in a row can really like do a number on my joy sometimes, but yeah, I think it's just that like coming from inside, and just being on that hunt, and I mean the grief is that loss, when you lose people, or you have to change your whole surroundings. When you realize, you were talking about like some of those folks that you gotta like, yo, I love you, but I love you from over there. You know what I mean? Like you're not good for me. And that's definitely, I think we can both agree on that being a theme of this year as well,
Yeah. In the beginning, like, I don't know if people like tuned in afterwards before, but you were talking about, I mean, your opening poem even touched on this idea of how breaking down statues that no longer served the purpose of society, and how if you were someone to erect a statue in your name, and a few decades from now, it no longer aligned with like the course of the universe or the course of society, that to break you down. Not to say that those were the times, not to defend you in any way, but let the youth like represent what would be your hope for youth, or what would be your legacy in your mind? What would you want to be remembered for?
Man, really that idea, I have an elder. One of my elders is a founding member of the Whalers. And we talk all the time. And a while back, I was talking to him about, I was noticing the difference between how the elder generation was moving and how the kids were moving. And I said, I really like the way the kids are moving, and I'm not rocking with the way that the elders are moving right now. And he's just laughed, and he said, the job of the elders is only to tell the youth what didn't work. Don't go to the elders for new ideas. All we're here to do is tell the kids what didn't work, right? The biggest title, I've earned a lot of titles in my life that people have given me, and there's none that means more to me than Uncle Rap to these youngsters. I got like hundreds of nieces and nephews out here who really come to me for that like spiritual side of things. And I try not to be like, yo, you know what you should do right now. Like what I can tell you is that I went down this path and it curves right there. So make sure that you're either ready for that curve, or that you don't go down that road if you're not ready for that curve. So I think my legacy, I want it to be Uncle Rap, as someone who like was always there to support the youth, and as a fighter for equity, and for justice and representation. I got this certain skin coat, right? And it gets me into a lot of places, and it gets me into a lot of rooms. And, I'm trying to use that time in those rooms to break down, the barriers that keep other people from getting into those rooms. I've been quoted many a time as saying that cultural equity is not a conversation to have. It's the beginning of every conversation. In this city, we have a lot of conversations. There's a big conversation about cultural equity, but you'll walk into a room where they want to talk about the arts, and it's 90% white folks. It's 90% straight white folks. That's not representative, and it's not equitable, and we can't even begin to have the conversation until it is equitable. So for me, that's like the legacy that I want to leave, as fighting for everybody's equity, as well as being an example for white folks, trying to show them how to use this privilege and how to weaponize this privilege that we have, to really fight for our Black and brown family, for our marginalized LGBTQIA family, and doing that through the arts, and doing that in every other way as well. It's been interesting having this title. This title allows me into even more of these doors. and just trying to continuously, even like that Whitman poem, it's meant to bring that to the surface, and whether you agree with me or whether you don't agree with me, it's going to make you think about the white privilege that exists in poetry and in the literary arts. And the more that we think about it, the more that we have conversations around it, the more that's going to get torn down, the more we are going to have space that is inclusive and is for everybody. So, that's definitely the legacy that I want to leave. As well as, like, we got to be able to laugh, man. We got to be able to laugh with this poetry and this art too. It can't always be serious. It can't always be, pulling on heartstrings and trying to make people cry.
Yeah. No, I respect that. Thank you so much. I think, you talk about equity, and I know for some of us we use that word a lot. But what does it mean to create an equitable society or an equitable community? How would you describe that if someone just asked you who had never heard that word before?
And I mean, the end goal is that equality where everyone's on the same platform. There's that really good graphic that I see going around where it's like the fence. Yeah. And it's not everybody having the same box to stand on, because not everybody starts at the same place. We got to look at where everybody is starting in this country. You talk about the Black community that's been oppressed for 400 plus years out here. There's like reparations need to happen. That needs to be a thing. So, that's what it looks like, is putting everybody on the same starting line. Not that everybody's on the same racetrack. It doesn't matter that we're on the same racetrack if other people are starting way back here. And, I'm one myself that, like, I'm competitive, and I don't want to win a race where someone started behind me. You know what I mean? Like, I want us to all start at the same starting line. So if I win, I could feel good about winning something. So for me, it's everybody having the same platform, everybody having the same resources, it not being easier for me to be heard by the city as to, what policies are getting made than it is for, the young Black and brown kids who are rapping on the street corner with me.
I appreciate you sharing how you're using your privilege, because I think what we've been seeing a lot, especially with the uprisings, is this, like, I wouldn't say unnecessary, but a hell of a lot of white guilt. And it's like, okay, you got your feelings on it. I'm not going to tell you. But we all, as some of us do possess a certain level of privilege and oppression at the same time. And it's like, who does your guilt and shame serve? And so be aware of your privilege, and then how are you going to use it? And you describe your experience almost like a bridge. Like, you're opening doors, you're allowing people to walk through so that they can enter that space and go further. And it's like, if there's a takeaway from, or a lot of us, it's like, you have privilege. It's not a bad thing. Now use it, do something with it. And so I really appreciate the work that you're doing to increase equity in our community, to make sure that our Black and brown folks are, like, spitting poetic and are waxing poetic and are, like, doing something and able to be heard. Their stories are heard, that they feel worthy of being in these spaces. And I think that that's just so needed. But you talk about white supremacy, and I was like, yes, thank you. Like, I think if 2020 did anything as well, it was like, make it okay. Because I remember for so long, we couldn't even talk about things like white supremacy in the open. And it's like, call it what it is. And when we can finally just call it what it is, and I think that's something poets have been doing for so long, is like just naming it, use that word, whatever it is, to describe it. It's like, then we can finally actually have the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's the part where if you get the door open for you, I use the analogy all the time of, like, I'm going to hold the door open. I'm someone to, like, stick one of them little door stoppers underneath it, and I'm going to hold the door open for everyone that I know to come and be a part of the conversation. A lot of times I adopted this thing called the slip and slide, and I'm about to give it out right now, and people are going to be like, that's what he was doing? I thought he was really sick. Because people will invite me into a room a lot of times in Sacramento, and some of y'all should feel bad about this, and some of y'all should take this personally, because y'all invite me to rooms because I'm the closest thing you can get to people of color without actually having people of color involved in the conversation. And so I get invited into a lot of these rooms, and I started doing this thing called the slip and slide, where I would be like, oh yeah, I'll totally be there. Yeah, I'll be in that meeting. And then that day something comes up and I can't make it, but Paul Willis will be in there, or someone else will be in that room. You know what I mean? And we just figure out ways to like slide our people in, and slide myself out, because the room doesn't need another straight white man in the room with an opinion. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what is called for in the city. And part of like breaking down white supremacy is like being ready to lose your own power in this situation. You know what I mean? And give up your own power in this situation. And I'm just trying to be an example for white folks of like how to do that. You know, even in, whether it's in the boardroom or whether it's on the protest lines, you know, as an activist, like, you know, trying to teach white folks that we face a different struggle. Yeah. Like we aren't oppressed, so we don't get to fight the same way that oppressed people fight, right? When black and brown people are on the front lines and they're yelling at the cops, that's called therapy. When we do it, it's called putting everybody in danger. Y'all don't have anything to be yelling at these cops about. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be working to fix these situations. You need to be asking hard questions. You need to be using your privilege. You are not black and brown. You are not oppressed in the same way. Therefore, you have to fight in a different way, you know, and with white folks too. You know, I saw a lot of folks talking about after the election, we need to heal and we need to bring everybody together. You know whose job it is not to bring everybody together? Black and brown folks. Like, dear white people right now listening, like, these other white folks, these 70 million that voted for Trump and that are about this, like, that life, these people go to your churches. These people are in your social clubs. These people are at your family dinners. It is our job to heal this. It is our job to have those conversations. It is our job to talk to those folks. It is not the job of black and brown folks who they have been actively oppressing. Right. Mm-hmm. So we have different lanes in this revolution to move in. You know, I'm working on an article right now about it. And the analogy that I have is, there was once upon a time a group called NWA, and they wrote a song. It was called Fuck the Police. And
what was the name of the song?
It was called Fuck the Police.
Oh, that's it. It's a classic.
And these young black men wrote this as a representation of their community and where they were from. Mm-hmm. And white folks don't need to be singing along to this song as much as they need to write their own called Fix the Police. Because we have like that, using that privilege to work within this system and to fix this system, you know, versus just trying to fight the same way when we don't face the same oppression. You know what I'm saying? I know, folks, I don't care. Again, I don't care if y'all are mad at me for saying it. Like,
I'm mad.
It needs to be said.
Ruben's mad.
Ruben's so mad he walked out like at the very beginning.
I walked. I've been listening to you guys. I'm like, for some reason my modem is all fucked up. So, but I've been listening to you guys on my phone. Lucky for data, right? Yeah. So, but thank you for holding it together while I'm running around. You know, like
I thrive in this running around. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. No. Thank you very much too, and everybody, thank you for coming out to Cali Cocktail Hour. Andru, you said you have a poem. Any information you want to get out before we say adios to everybody? And, you know, much love to everybody out there for coming for Cali Cocktail Hour. Come next Friday, maybe not next.
All right. Yeah. You're still here?
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
So before we go, you have one more anything you want to say, Andru, too?
Just
you have a poem.
Follow Sacramento Poetry Salon. I want to do two, just from what we were just talking about. So I got one that kind of touches on all of that, and then one that I want to leave everybody with, just to like put you on a good vibration, and for me to you show some love. So yeah, I got you.
Let's do it.
All right.
This poem is called Big Words. Notes on vibrations and harmony. World War III is love versus fear. And we don't even have the right words. We're just making way for the ones who do, who deserve so much more than justice. Humans deserve so much more than liberation. We deserve so much more than freedom. They don't hear me. These are small words. Freedom comes with the implication there is something other to be freed from. Peace has been transformed to a tool of fear, something to keep rather than something to give away. Divine balance gets closer. Holy Father, we pray. Holy Father, we pray. Holy Father, don't you ever forget how holy my mama is. My friend Harley says the reconciliation is being live streamed in real time, and that word found home in my bones. Revolutions happen daily, however beautiful. I don't want to be revolving when I leave here. I want to be reconciled. We are answering the equation of us, struggling with the remainders of they, grasping at words just past our tongues that connect it all. So we say what we mean because that's all we know how to mean. But these kids will not be limited by the words we give them. They know mouths don't always call the same name hearts do. Let them pray in their own tongues and watch how ancient the dances get together. These kids know sometimes the right words aren't words at all. They are simply vibrations in rhythm and harmony. Thank y'all.
Let's bring up that crowd, everybody out there.
Bang, bang.
There you go. Oh, who's that? That's awesome. And John said he'd love to hear it. I think he was talking about what you were talking about just a minute ago, too. And like I said, thank you for coming out, and thank you for doing this, too. Carissa, thank you for jumping on and holding, both of you guys holding down the fort. Yeah. And we love everybody out there, and if you're only here to say that, we love you. You are cared for, and we, if you have anything out there I want to talk about, we're here afterwards, too. And John said, wow, John's a great artist, too. But we would love to leave the last one and for everyone out there, because I know that we wanted to do some, to leave everybody with some good energy out there, too.
Yeah.
So appreciate you. Appreciate you, Carissa. So everybody out there maybe 2 Fridays from now. Cali Cocktail Hour, come on out. Thank you for always coming out and doing this with us. And Andru, it is all... Oh, hold on. Let me get this comment before. There you go.
Respect.
Yeah.
Love.
And love you, my friend. That's right. It's from Marlo. So let's go for the last and the beautiful part of the show, the ending. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. This is Andru, sorry. I'm all combo. Yeah.
This poem was inspired because there's a lot of energy, floating around, and I noticed a lot of people feeling like they weren't enough or they weren't doing enough, and I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, you are enough. Divinity flows in your fingertips with light so radiant. Every beat of your heart is a victory march, so strong and so powerful, made of whole universes, stitched by the hands of creation with a flawless design, a prophecy you fulfill perfectly with every breath. The sun wouldn't shine the same without it. Creation is only waiting for you to smile back at it. Do you see it yet? You are enough for the birds to sing about, for the trees to grow about, for the stars to shoot about, for the moon to shine about, for the seeds to sprout about. Do you see it yet? Gardens in your speech, fields of wildflowers in your prayers, lighthouses in your eyes. No one else can see it for you. You have always been enough. You will always be enough. Your simple act of being is enough. Do you see it? Love y'all. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And John said mercy. Kalia said a heart and some prayer. That's right. But thank you thank you. And thank you for coming out, everybody. And this is Cali Cocktail Hour. We'll see you on a Friday after next with something new. And anything, last words for anybody? Those words are beautiful, Andrew. It's always, and you always have the beautiful energy too. That's what I love about you. Is it okay to love you?
Please.
We say that.
Yeah. Sorry.
Love me.
Damn, Chris.
Yeah. See? That's right.
Yo, Chris, thanks for tuning in the whole show. That's how you know Chris was here for the whole show.
Yeah, he was. So, yeah. And thank you, everybody. Have a good holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Anything else out there? Kwanzaa.
Beams. That's right. Beams. That's
right. Everybody, thank you for coming out. And you guys just hold on. You two, don't leave the stream yet. But
no.
I think I finally fixed a problem, but
I live here now.
We learned some good stuff here. You always learn something from adversity, right? Something always happens, and but yeah. So we're gonna head you out with the song, and we'll let you go, and we'll be back. Thank you for coming.
I've seen my dad, and I'm alive to kill the time. What triggers the idea of la da da da? Well, I've lived this before. Why must we experience it? My curiosity kills city.